On the 4th floor of Cockrell Island's dungeon, Peak Sword and 8 of the top-ranked players were gathered in one place. Behind them were 200 elite members of the Silver Knights Guild, a gathering of users with the combined power to capture a small fortress. As time counted down, the nervousness of the guild members reached its peak. The boss monster, Helgao, appeared on the 4th floor every 2 weeks. Helgao was stronger than expected and had a variety of patterns, so they had been unable to kill him in any of their 5 attempts so far. During the last month, Peak Sword and the elites of the Silver Knights had strengthened their items with money, all with the intention of succeeding next time and killing Helgao. After 3 minutes, Helgao would appear and this place would turn into a sea of fire. A heat wave started to slowly permeate throughout the room. Peak Sword wanted to encourage everyone, but he was afraid. It was at this moment that one soldier started screaming that there was an intruder. All of the guild members' eyes turned toward the entrance. A young man had entered. It was unusual because he was covered by a cloak with no armor or weapons visible. Peak Sword thought about how he had broken through the defensive troops downstairs. Was he a highly trained assassin? But he realized that an assassin wouldn't openly reveal their presence in a place like this. Peak Sword was unable to find his data, so he shouldn't be a ranker. Peak Sword glanced at his companions, but they all shook their heads. Peak Sword warned the youth with a frown. "This is an area controlled by the Silver Knights Guild. If you don't want to die, go back." The young man ignored Peak Sword's warning as he talked to himself and threw off his cloak. There were exclamations from every direction. The appearance of armor rapidly being equipped on the body of the youth was quite cool. The particularly unique point was the 1-meter-long tail that stretched from the vicinity of the tailbone. It was sharp like a blade, and amazingly, it was moving on its own. It was the first time they had seen such armor, so the guild members struggled to hide their interest. Peak Sword raised his voice and said, "That isn't important right now. Throw him out." Suddenly, there was a big roar and Helgao appeared. It was warping around the fire of hell and his weapon could even split mountains into 2 parts. Helgao, the master of hellfire, his roar has applied fear, chaos, and debilitating effects only in one attack. Half of the guild members either fell into a dying state or burned. Barely half of the people standing were able to hang on. Peak Sword thought that he had raised his fire resistance to 86%, but for him to still receive this degree of damage, they would certainly fail again. As Peak Sword despaired, he suddenly doubted his eyes. While the others were surrounded by flames, the young man alone was moving forward, moving freely like he wasn't affected. Peak Sword fell silent as he witnessed the ridiculous scene. As Helgao ran amok and slaughtered the guild members, the young man pulled out a pickaxe, headed to the wall, and started swinging the pickaxe. Peak Sword's eyes popped out as he saw the youngster start mining in front of Helgao. At that moment, a hot wind emerged from the staff that Helgao waved and hit the young man. Peak Sword expected the young man to receive huge damage and collapse, yet unbelievably, the young man was perfectly fine.